Okay, the recording of this podcast today is to help teachers through the process of determining and developing success criteria. And so I'm going to show you a lot of different methods that I've used, and we'll be taking a look at some of the things I'm currently working on. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at a PowerPoint that I developed so I can kind of talk you through it a little bit. Titled Getting Clear on Our Standards, Creating Success Criteria from the Common Core. So you can see that there are steps involved in this, and I can tell you right now that it doesn't look the same way every time. I've done it in a lot of different areas: language arts, math, social studies, science, and it does look a little bit different. The example that I'm going to show you today is language arts. This happens to be a 10th grade level unit that we just are working on right now with a teacher at Torrington High School. So you can see step one, what you have to make sure that you've done in your curriculum is you've developed or prioritized the standards, because we know with the Common Core there are many standards for each unit, so some type of prioritization needs to take place so we can get it down, the criteria down to a reasonable number. So that's one thing that has to happen in a collegial group, or obviously your curriculum people need to give you some direction on that. The second thing that you want to do is make sure that you put all these standards, go ahead and find them and just copy and paste them onto a document. When I work with people, I like to I like everybody looking at all the standards at one time, and if you have copies of the assessment, that helps as well. So you can see right here are the 9th grade Language Arts Unit 2 reading standards. Same there, I'm not going to read through them. Here are all the writing standards, and here are the language standards. So we have those up there, and it's really good to with the group you're working with, and I would always recommend doing this with a group, never individually, because it really is a group process. So you take a look at those, and then you can start creating the criteria. So I do want to read a couple of these things. For each standard, develop criteria that meet the standard accurately and at the right depth. And it's just a simple question. What would a student have to know and be able to do to meet this standard? That's how simple it is. And make sure you describe it in student language to make it clear. And you'll see that we're just going to make some short phrases to do that. So you can see there's the first reading standard: cite strong and thorough text evidence to support analysis. And you can see under that, so we came up with find main idea and theme, and there is also some literary elements that we know that have to be in this unit, so we know that students have to do that. And the biggest thing we know when it talks about citing strong evidence is that students have to find passages to back it up, and so they have to cite specifically from text. So notice these are just phrases. The first time you go through this, you're having teachers just put out phrases answering the question, what do students need to be able to know and be able to do. Okay, so you can see how that looks on the next couple standards as well. You don't have to put anything in front of it. You don't want to make it into I can statements yet, or you don't even have to put students. We just want these phrases. Okay, so after we did this for every single standard, now I'm going to go back. That's all of these. We did it for all the language, all the writing, all the reading standards. We get a list of all of these phrases, and you notice there are 25 of these phrases in there. And so that's a lot of things. So what we want to do is see if there's any combining that we can do. So you can see on this slide, can any of the criteria phrases be combined? Do some of them say the same thing? Can some of them be chunked or grouped? And do they make sense? Can students and teachers understand them? So that's what you do. So you go through this list, and again, you do this in collaboration with your group, and you talk about it. Are some of these, can be combined? Are they saying the same thing? Once you do that, you'll get a list that you can probably cut it at least in half or maybe even more. We got it down to 14 different things, and notice we just put students in front. So what we're saying that in this unit from the Power Standards, these are the 14 things that students need to know and be able to do. And we can be very confident and assured that all of these came right from the Power Standards, sometimes they're called, or the prioritized standards. All right, so now once you have those, really your journey's just beginning, because obviously there's going to have to be some design, there's going to have to be some lessons developed around them. But the first thing I like to do is compare to your assessment. Because if you take these criteria, compare it to the assessment, and the assessment's asking students to do something different, or if not all the criteria are within that assessment, there's some things you might have to do with your, again, with your curriculum people or your collegial group to say, we might want to tweak our assessment a little bit, we might want to change it, but we want to make sure that um, if we're asking students if these are the criteria from the standards, we probably want to assess at least some of those criteria. So you compare it, and then again, what are we going to do with them? If we just give those to a teacher, I don't think that's enough. So there are some design that has to work. What resources do you already have available for each criteria? What resources do you need? How much time do you need for each criteria? Are certain criteria hard to teach, difficult to learn? And if they are, this is where in our district it's called the design team that would come together, and you would be able to design some of those through that process. And how are you going to differentiate each criteria? So really that's kind of the process. I will show you, I always like to, when I work with people, I like to do this on Google Docs, so you can see this is our Google Docs that about 4 of us are connected to. And if I scroll down this Google Docs, you can see we did exactly this process right on Google Docs. So here are those standards, and notice under each one we did those phrases. We just started putting them underneath. So we did that for each one of the standards. So then we got them, we did all the list, we did all those things. Where we're at now is we actually are to the point where you can see here are our criteria. What I like to do is now I went under each one and see what resources are available. So on this one, analyze story elements. I went out and found a bunch of different web resources that you could use. There's some print. If you look at the comments on here, there's some print resources that you can use as well. After we do that, we sit down with the teacher, and here is where I think the design part comes in. We start breaking it down. Okay, what are you going to do on day one? Well, we felt it was important that these 3 were going to be probably looked at in the first week, or at least the first couple days. So we put the criteria in there, and then we start talking about what could be some anticipatory things or a hook, and what resource video clip, what are the students going to do. So you can see really this is a design process, but we're spelling it out what the teacher and the student are going to do each day. So, and again, this is just a work in progress. We started with day 2 and day 3, day 4 and 5, and we're actually meeting with this teacher next week to continue this. But when they're finished, you can see what you have is you're going to have a nice agenda of what you're going to work on, or what the teacher can do every day. And not only what they're going to work on, it will be connected to the criteria, which we know came right from the standards, so we have all those things connected. The teachers are going to be feel very comfortable that they now have a guide that can help them make sure that the students are hitting these standards at the right depth. So it's really a great process. And then after that, you go through, and then and what we have the teachers do is keep some notes on all of these things to see what worked, what didn't work. You can bring it back to your collegial team, and you can have those conversations of what do you need to change. But again, what they're going to be assured of is that what they're doing every day in their class is based on the Common Core and is addressing the Common Core, and that's where the power of this comes in. And so really that's the process, and I think it's very powerful. I will tell you this process was not just developed from myself or a group of people here. Dewey Clapp and myself, we started a couple of years ago. We read this book from Margaret Heritage. She did a really good job of explaining how to get the criteria. We kind of it morphed into some of the things that we help teachers with through design in our district, and that's kind of where the whole process from this PowerPoint, Getting Clear on Standards, came from. So that's really it in a nutshell. I hope this gives you some direction. Always, if you need more help, you can contact me or any of the facilitators, and we would love to help you. Thanks.